At the hospital, a woman named Anne is rushed in after being struck by lightning. The lightning causes her to go into labor much earlier than expected. Hours go by, and eventually, the doctor tells Anne's husband, Greg, the heartbreaking news. Anne passed away after giving birth. The doctor reassures Greg that the baby is okay, but there may be some issues with him. It's already clear that the baby has no pigmentation, which means he has albinism. Greg insists on seeing his son, so the doctor takes him to the room where the baby is kept in a special incubator. The doctor explains that the wires connecting the incubator to a nearby machine are used to monitor the baby's brain activity. Greg begins to cry, and when he looks at his son, he refuses to believe the baby is his. He can't accept how the baby looks, and as he focuses on the baby, the little one starts crying as if it can feel Greg's negative emotions. It seems like the baby's distress is somehow connected to Greg's rejection. As Greg is led out of the room, the readings of the baby's brain waves go haywire and become extremely intense. Fast forward 20 years, Sheriff Barnum calls Jesse Caldwell, the director of a local youth shelter, to check out something strange at the farmhouse of an old man who just passed away. The sheriff explains that the man died of a heart attack the night before and was found by neighbors in the morning. But there's something odd. There's a boy hiding in the basement, and no one knows who he is. The neighbors say the boy is disfigured, and the old man kept him locked away. They've never really gotten a good look at him. Jesse agrees to help, and they head down to the basement cautiously. When they find the boy hiding in a dark corner, they're shocked. As the boy steps into the light, they see his pale, hairless skin and bright purple eyes. They ask him his name, and he says his grandparents called him Powder, but his real name is Jeremy Reed. Sheriff Barnum goes to get them some food while Jesse stays and talks to Jeremy. She asks him why he didn't call anyone when his grandfather collapsed. Jeremy explains that his granddad always warned him that if anyone saw him, they would try to take him away. Jeremy says he's never been to school, but he's read all the books in the basement. Jesse is impressed, and when she shows him a book that's difficult for even college students, Jeremy reads it with ease. As they leave the basement, Barnum notices something strange about the old man's house. There are about 12 lightning rods on the roof, which is pretty unusual. Officer Harley Duncan mentions that, although the old man died of a heart attack, his heart showed signs of being electrocuted. Later at the shelter, the other kids start to notice something different about Jeremy. When he gets out of the car, all the other kids stop and stare at him. Inside, Jesse makes a phone call to arrange for Jeremy to take an IQ test. At lunch, a group of teens starts bothering Jeremy. One of them, named John, picks on him because of how he looked. John says that new kids at the shelter have to wear a spoon on their nose, and his friend Mitch demonstrates by balancing a spoon. Everyone laughs at how silly Mitch looked. Jeremy, however, takes the spoon from John and starts to make it float, attracting other spoons and creating a tower. The group freaks out, but John gets mad and thinks Jeremy is some kind of freak. That night, Sheriff Barnum goes home, where he completely ignores his son, Stephen, who's waiting at the front door. Barnum goes to check on his wife, who is very sick with cancer and can no longer speak. The next morning, the doctor confirms that Jeremy is perfectly healthy, but Jesse asks him if he would like to attend school. Jeremy agrees, and in science class, the teacher, Mr. Donald Ripley, teaches about electric current. The teacher turns off the lights and switches on a machine to show how electricity moves. However, when Jeremy feels the electric current, something strange happens. He becomes uncomfortable, grabs onto his desk, and starts shaking. The machine starts sparking and creating more and more electricity, until a bolt of lightning-like energy shoots into Jeremy's chest. The electricity flows through him, and he begins to hover in the air. Mr. Ripley tries to unplug the machine, but it's too late. The machine explodes, and Jeremy falls to the ground unconscious. At the hospital, Dr. Wayne can't believe Mr. Ripley's explanation. Normally, an electrical shock would burn or harm someone, but Jeremy seems perfectly fine. Mr. Ripley begins to think that Jeremy's body might be going through something called electrolysis, which could explain why he doesn't grow hair. The nurse interrupts them with the news that Jeremy has run away. While Jeremy is on his way back to his grandfather's house, he meets Lindsay, a girl from his class who saw what happened in the classroom. As they talk, Jeremy reveals that he can hear people's thoughts and memories, even things they aren't aware of themselves. Lindsay thinks he's probably hallucinating because of the electric shock. She gives him directions to the interstate bridge, and he keeps going. On the bridge, Sheriff Barnum and Officer Duncan intercept him and make him turn around. At school, Jeremy is called into a conference room to discuss the results of his IQ test. Dr. Stippler, the chairman, tells Jeremy that his IQ is off the charts, beyond any known classification. He's a genius, but Jeremy just wants to return to his grandfather's house. Unfortunately, Jesse delivers some bad news. The bank now owns the house. The next day, Sheriff Barnum takes the kids from the youth shelter on a camping trip. Jeremy stays behind. But during the night, a thunderstorm begins. Jeremy feels a connection to the storm and tells Barnum that he can feel the lightning. The next morning, Jeremy walks deeper into the woods and finds a group of boys surrounding a dying deer. Officer Duncan rushes over with a gun, bragging about his hunting skills. He's proud of the kill, but Jeremy is upset. He feels the pain and fear of the dying deer and, using his powers, transfers that pain to Duncan. Duncan begins to writhe in agony as he experiences what the deer is going through. The other boys, including John, try to stop him, but Jeremy stares them down, even when John threatens to shoot him. Just as John pulls the trigger, Mitch steps in and saves Jeremy's life. Duncan becomes so scared that the group has to hold him down. Jeremy, deeply hurt, decides he wants to go back to his grandfather's house. Later, when Barnum returns home, Dr. Wayne tells him that his wife's condition has worsened. She's in extreme pain, and Barnum doesn't understand why she's still holding on. That night, Barnum asks Jeremy to help. He brings Jeremy upstairs to see his wife and asks if Jeremy can communicate with her. Jeremy gently touches her forehead, and he begins hearing her thoughts. She can't leave yet, because Barnum hasn't forgiven their son, Stephen. She reminds him of a memory from their past, a time when Stephen was a child, and they all played in the snow together. She mentions that she lost her wedding ring that day, and Barnum and Stephen spent hours searching for it. After finding the ring, Jeremy helps Barnum see the need to forgive his son. Jeremy touches Barnum's wrist, and Barnum starts hearing his wife's voice in his mind. He reassures her, and as he embraces her, she opens her eyes one last time before peacefully passing away. Stephen arrives at the house, and Barnum embraces him. They both cry, finally sharing an emotional connection. A few days later, Jeremy goes to the county fair with Lindsay. As they talk, Jeremy asks if she thinks he's ugly, like his father once believed. Lindsay replies that he has the most beautiful face she's ever seen, and they kiss. But Lindsay's dad, Dick, sees them and attacks Jeremy with hurtful words. Jesse intervenes, but Dick insults Jeremy one last time before leaving with Lindsay, leaving Jeremy heartbroken. Jeremy decides to leave the shelter and head back to the one place where he felt accepted, his grandfather's house. As he leaves the shelter, he hears some noise coming from the gym and curiously enters only to find the other teens playing basketball. John confronts Jeremy and takes his hat when Jeremy tries to retrieve it. John challenges him to a fight, daring him to take his best shot if he thinks he's strong enough to get the hat back. Suddenly, Jeremy gains insight into John's memories and starts recounting the day when John's stepdad took his head away. When he was a young boy, that hat was the only memento left by his deceased father. Hearing this revelation, John becomes emotional and threatens to harm Jeremy. A thunderstorm begins, and John forcefully drags Jeremy out into the rain, accompanied by his friends. John strips Jeremy naked and mocks his pale complexion, stating that he needs some color. Finally, he tosses Jeremy into a muddy puddle. When they pull Jeremy back up, John cruelly tells him that he will never be accepted by them. This statement fills Jeremy with profound sadness and anger, causing him to unleash a sudden burst of energy. The force of this energy knocks everyone, including Jeremy himself, concerned for John's well-being. Mitch rushes over to check on him and realizes that John's heart has stopped beating. Acting quickly, Jeremy administers a few electric shocks to John's chest, successfully reviving him, realizing the danger they are in. Mitch offers to assist Jeremy in escaping and returning to his granddad's home. He sneaks Jeremy onto a van van that is heading towards the farm where Jeremy's granddad lives. When Jeremy arrives at his granddad's house, he discovers that everything, including his bed and all his books in the basement, has been removed or taken away. Jesse comforts him and promises to find a new place where he can feel at home. Just as they're about to leave, Barnum and Officer Duncan arrive to take Jeremy back into custody. Jesse pleads with Barnum to let him go, and, surprisingly, Barnum agrees. Jeremy then shares something profound with Barnum. When his wife passed away, he didn't feel like she just disappeared. Instead, he feels like she went somewhere else. Barnum smiles, realizing that Jeremy might understand something others cannot. Suddenly, Jeremy dashes into a nearby field, and everyone follows. The clouds above part, and a lightning bolt strikes Jeremy directly in the chest. He feels a surge of energy course through him and releases an incredible burst of energy that spreads throughout the field. As the lightning clears, Jeremy mysteriously disappears, leaving everyone stunned. The sky rumbles one last time with a resounding thunder, and everyone watches in awe. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to hit the like button for more content like this.